When single mom Clara takes a job at a crumbling estate, she discovers the elderly widow isn't her only secret. The handyman watching her every move is actually the billionaire heir testing her loyalty. Clara wiped flour from her hands onto her faded apron as she stared at the towering iron gates. The estate loomed ahead of one grand Victorian mansion now sagging under ivy and neglect. Her daughter's school fees were 6 months overdue. This job was her last hope. A gruff male voice crackled through the intercom. Come to the servants' entrance. She clutched her thrift store handbag tighter, the strap fraying at the edges. The rusty gate creaked open. Inside, dust motes danced in shafts of sunlight piercing through crack-stained glass. An elderly woman sat rigidly in a wheelchair by the fireplace, clutching a fractured porcelain teapot. Mrs. Whitmore, I'm Clara, you're new. Can you fix this? The woman thrust the teapot forward, her voice trembling with unexpected vulnerability. Blue veins mapped her papery skin. My Arthur gave me this 60 years ago. Clara examined the pieces. Superglue wouldn't work, it needed professional restoration. But the old woman's watery eyes mirrored her own desperation. I'll try, she whispered. That night, Clara sat at her kitchen table amidst craft supplies and online tutorials. Her daughter slept soundly in the next room. As she painstakingly reassembled the teapot, she noticed tiny initials carved underneath a W.E.W. 1963, love etched in porcelain. At dawn, she returned. Mrs. Whitmore's gnarled fingers trembled as they traced the repaired cracks. You preserved the flaws, she marveled. A gruff voice interrupted. Grandmother prefers new things. Clara turned to see a scowling man in workman's coveralls, the estate's handyman. His eyes lingered on Clara with unsettling intensity. No, James, Mrs. Whitmore corrected softly, still cradling the teapot. This girl understands sometimes the breaks make things more precious. Clara didn't notice James slip a silver flask from his pocket, nor the embossed U matching the teapot's initials. She was too busy wondering why a handyman wore $500 Italian loafers. The library smelled of aging paper and forgotten memories. Clara ran her fingers along leather-bound spines, dust tickling her nose as she searched for Mrs. Whitmore's requested novel. Moonlight filtered through grimy windows, casting long shadows across the worn Persian rug. A floorboard creaked behind her. She spun around to find James leaning against the doorframe, his shadow stretching like a dark stain across the bookshelves. Shouldn't you be fixing pipes? She asked, unnerved by his constant presence. Shouldn't you be at home with your kid? He countered, stepping closer. His work boots left faint impressions in the thick dust. Clara froze as he reached past her, his sleeve brushing her arm as he pulled down a volume of Browning poetry. Grandmother's favorite. Something fluttered from the book, an old photograph of a young couple laughing on a beach. Mrs. Whitmore, radiant in a polka-dot swimsuit, arm in arm with a man who shared James' strong jawline. On the back, a handwritten note to Ellie, my forever Arthur. They were happy once, James said quietly, too quietly. Clara glanced up and caught raw pain in his eyes before he masked it. Before the money, the lawsuits, his voice broke off as the grandfather clock chimed midnight. Later, while brewing chamomile tea in the kitchen, Clara overheard voices. Through the cracked pantry door, she saw James no longer in work clothes but a tailored suit arguing with a lawyer. Inheritance contingent on reconciling with grandmother. 3 months to prove yourself worthy. A teacup slipped from Clara's fingers, shattering on the flagstones. James whirled around, their eyes meeting through the doorway. In that moment, Clara realized two terrifying truths. James Whitmore Tefiju wasn't the handyman, and she'd just become part of his test. The phone rang at 2:17 am, the kind of call that turns blood to ice. Clara fumbled for the receiver, still groggy from sleep. Come quick. James' voice rasped, stripped of its usual arrogance. She's asking for you. Clara threw on yesterday's clothes and sped through empty streets, her daughter curled in the back seat. The mansion loomed like a haunted silhouette against storm clouds. Inside, Mrs. Whitmore lay trembling in her four-poster bed, oxygen hissing through tubes. Found her collapsed by Arthur's portrait, James murmured, his expensive cologne mingling with the scent of medicine. Child, Mrs. Whitmore's papery hand grasped Clara's. Promise me. Watch over James when I'm gone. Clara's throat tightened. Across the bed, James looked away, jaw clenched. Later, in the dim kitchen, Clara warmed milk for her sleeping daughter. James appeared silently, leaning against the refrigerator. You heard her demands, he said bitterly. The old bat's making you my keeper. She loves you, Clara countered. Why else put you through this charade? A hollow laugh escaped him. Love, she disinherited me for 10 years over a business deal. He pulled a velvet box from his pocket. Inside, a diamond necklace worth more than Clara's lifetime earnings. Tomorrow's her birthday. A peace offering from a grandson who can't get anything right. Clara hesitated, then placed her hand over his. Then give her something money can't buy. At dawn, while Mrs. Whitmore slept, Clara and James crept into the attic. Dust-sheeted forgotten treasures, a cradle, holiday decorations, a box labeled James' childhood. As Clara lifted the lid, James froze. Inside lay every art project, report card, and little league trophy he'd ever earned, all meticulously preserved. She kept everything, Clara whispered. James sank to his knees, a choke sound escaping him. Outside, thunder rumbled, but in that dusty attic, two broken hearts began to mend. Sunlight filtered through cobwebbed attic windows as Clara carefully lifted a yellowed envelope from James' childhood box. Don't, he warned, but it was too late. Photographs spilled across the floorboards like autumn leaves. Not just school pictures, but snapshots of a younger James visiting Mrs. Whitmore every Sunday without fail, even during their estrangement. You never stopped coming, Clara breathed. James turned his face away, but not before she saw the tear tracking through attic dust on his cheek. She never answered the door, he said hoarsely. I just sat on the porch steps like a fool. Beneath the photos lay a leather journal. Clara opened it to find Mrs. Whitmore's elegant script detailing every secret visit. James came again today. He brought daisies, my favorite, though he's forgotten. I watched from the upstairs window. A floorboard creaked. They turned to find Mrs. Whitmore standing in the attic doorway, truly standing. Without her wheelchair. You thought I didn't see you, she whispered. All those years, watching you grow into a man Arthur would have been proud of. Her voice broke as she touched James' face. Forgive this stubborn old woman. James collapsed into her arms, decades of pride crumbling. Clara quietly gathered her sleeping daughter to leave them in peace. But Mrs. Whitmore stopped her. Stay, child. This, she gestured between James and Clara. This is why I brought you here. Later, while Mrs. Whitmore napped, James cornered Clara in the library. You were part of her plan all along, he realized aloud. To remind me what really matters. Clara's heart raced as he stepped closer. It worked, he murmured, his lips brushing hers in a kiss that tasted like redemption. Somewhere downstairs, a porcelain teapot sat mended on a windowsill, its golden cracks glowing in the afternoon sun. The morning of Mrs. Whitmore's 85th birthday dawned with birdsong and the scent of fresh-baked cinnamon rolls. Clara hummed as she arranged daisies in the repaired teapot, sunlight streaming through spotless windows. Her daughter's laughter floated from the garden where she played with James, no longer in disguises, but his true self, sleeves rolled up as he pushed her on a tire swing. Mrs. Whitmore watched from the porch, her wheelchair abandoned. You've given me back my family, she told Clara, squeezing her hand. Now let me give you yours. She nodded toward James, who approached holding a single daisy and a legal document. Grandmother's transferring ownership of the estate to a trust, he said, eyes never leaving Clara's face. For your daughter's future. The unspoken R hung between them like a promise. That evening, as fireflies danced over the manicured lawn, Clara found James in the library. He stood before Arthur's portrait, holding two items, the diamond necklace and a simple brass key. I can't decide which to give you, he admitted. Clara smiled and plucked the key from his palm. This opens the back door, she teased. Where's the adventure in that? James laughed, the sound warm and whole, then dropped to one knee. Then let's find out together. Outside, Mrs. Whitmore whispered to Clara's daughter. See, my darling, love always leaves cracks, so the light can get in. And as the sunset painted the mansion golden, 3 generations gathered on the porch, watching as Clara's repaired teapot bloomed with fresh daisies, fragile, flawed and perfectly whole.